week's chapter of Bleach, the mystery of Jugram Hoshwolf is finally starting to unfold, and why he is truly the right-hand man of the Quincy leader. This week's chapter was very simple but very satisfying. I have to admit, I'm actually enjoying the flashbacks of all of the villains from this arc. It's doing a really great job on expanding on them, and I'm actually learning a lot of things I never even knew before. This week's chapter, though, was real simple. Basically just learning that Jugram Hoshwolf is the first Quincy, just like the Quincy leader that's appeared in over 200 years. He seems to have the same abilities, where he doesn't exactly take the energy around him, but he actually gives it out. But eventually, he can take that energy back. He's very similar to the Quincy leader, and apparently we learn in this week's chapter the reason Bazz-B is so freaking hardcore and the reason he's such a badass is because this entire time he has literally been taking the power of Jugram Hoshwolf. Hoshwolf has actually been empowering him and giving him his special abilities. How he's been able to be such a badass, how he's been able to fire arrows, of which he even tries to fire one at the Quincy leader this week in an extreme fit of rage when he's trying to get over his anger when he realizes, why am I not being chosen? Why am I the weak one? I was the strong one the entire time, and when he finally hears the revelation that indeed Jugram has been giving him the power the entire time, it sort of crushes his entire world, and that's why he tries to attack him. That doesn't work. Hoshwolf ends up grabbing that arrow, which is a fantastic transition to the present, where both Bazz-B and Jugram are having their fight, and it seems like Bazz-B gets this one big slash across his chest at the very end of the chapter, giving us a little bit of some to-be-continued action. So what's the rundown on this week's chapter of Bleach? Very simple, but honestly, I really like it. I love the dynamic between Jugram and Hoshwolf, and just the fact that his abilities are very similar to the Quincy leader leads me to believe that they probably have an even stronger connection aside from the fact that they both have the same powers. For all we know, they could be directly related. They do look somewhat similar to each other, but not too much. Mostly just in the long hair rocker department. What I will say is, I like this chapter. I loved the artwork, I loved how crazy and angry Bazz-B was getting, and how they demonstrated that, how he was sort of second-guessing all of his training, and sort of realizing, like, I went through all of this for absolutely nothing. And even at the end of the day, after attacking the Quincy leader and having Hoshwolf actually stop that attack, he still somehow becomes a member of the Sternritter, and I'm sure this is all because of Hoshwolf. There is no way the Quincy leader would have even allowed Bazz-B to be in the Sternritter army if it wasn't for Hoshwolf, which also shows, again, he's probably going to have a little extra pull. He's probably actually going to be one of the few people who can directly communicate with the Quincy leader without having their heads cut off, which I think is actually a pretty interesting detail. I mean, it's been known since the beginning of this big arc, when they finally introduced all of the Sternritter formally, that Hoshwolf himself was going to be a little different. He wasn't going to be like the typical villains that we've seen from the series. And I really can't wait to see, like, why at the end of this week's chapter, as they were walking away with the Quincy leader, why he just suddenly decided that he was going to help out the Quincy leader. Maybe he was just completely enamored by his power. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not really sure. All I know is, I'm really liking these flashbacks quite a bit. It looks like this one is done, and we're going to be going back to the main fight. Maybe we'll get a few more flashbacks after this to see how their actual training within the Sternritter army went. Maybe we can see some of the other members when they were training. That's something that I actually like to see, and this is all, of course, going to directly tie into the Quincy leader's backstory, which I still think is going to be an integral part of this final arc of the series, something that we're going to need to see in order to actually care about what's going on here. Otherwise, on the technical side of things, this week's chapter looked really nice. There was some really great artwork. All the scenes of Bazz-B just fueling and getting ready to explode like a volcano. You could just feel his anger through his dialogue and through his actual expressions. The final thing where he tries to attack was awesome and definitely one of the big highlights of this week's chapter. This is one that any Bleach fan should definitely check out, especially if they've been following this arc, because it's going to give you a firmer understanding and appreciation of these brand new villains. And I can't wait to learn a little bit more about them, and I really liked this chapter a lot. It wasn't exactly the home run that I was expecting, but it was still really entertaining as a Bleach fan. So I'm going to give this week's chapter right here a 4 out of 5. Check it out, Bleach fans. It was pretty good. So I enjoyed this chapter, but what about you? Did you read this week's chapter of Bleach? What did you think about the backstories of Bazz-B and Jugram Hoshwolf? And what do you think is going to happen in their following battle? Do you think Bazz-B is going to be killed and tossed to the wayside? Or do you think they're actually going to team up again and begin their mission anew and try to kill the Quincy leader? Please tell me your theories, your comments, your concerns in the comment section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of the final arc of Bleach. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it, share it with all of your friends. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime reviews. You guys can also follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!